Greetings! I am Shawn Redman, aka the cheesily named Darth Shawn, and today we're going to talk about another canon novel. We talked about Lords of the Sith a couple of weeks back, but this week we're going to talk about one about the same timeline, and that is A New Dawn. Star Wars A New Dawn by John Jackson Miller is the third that takes place before Episode 4 A New Hope. As most of you know if you've watched the previous videos, I'm a big fan of Canon, and this novel follows Canon as well as Hera Syndulla as they meet, and basically it's the prequel to Star Wars Rebels, the TV show. I found it to be a little boring at times and a little kind of all over the place, but as a whole it's a solid novel. It's not as good as Lords of the Sith or Dark Disciple or Tarkin. It's not as good as any of those, but it's still a solid novel, and I think it adds even more if you have watched Rebels and then gone back, because you kind of already know these characters and you're like, wow, how did these characters get there? As far as Kanan goes, I feel like the comics do a better job of showing us his background and showing kind of his character growth, but this does add a little bit to the character. We see in Rebels he's kind of ready to be kind of more of that team player to fight injustice, whereas in the comics he's on the run. So this is kind of that in between, is he is still on the run, still kind of that scoundrel, but we're seeing more and more he's willing to help people, and that really comes out as he meets Hera Syndulla, who is trying so desperately to be a resistance to the Empire, but just doesn't have any people really on her side. She's searching for people, and that dynamic between her and Kanan is really the best part of this novel. We get to really kind of see that there may be a little bit of a romance, more on Kanan's side than Hera's, but a little bit maybe of a romance. Maybe we'll get that in the future in Rebels or another novel or whatever, but there's kind of there's this tension back and forth. It's pretty interesting as a whole. Their character growth isn't quite what we've gotten in, say, Season 1 of Rebels, but it still is good growth and interesting to the characters that are going to keep popping up throughout Rebels and throughout other works in this time frame. Where A New Dawn really is at its best, though, is when it's talking about the antagonists, the Empire. We get it through two different characters in this. We get it through Ray Sloan, who is the captain of the Star Destroyer Ultimatum, as well as through the mostly machine, still a little bit man, Count Vidian. Both are very interesting characters. Personally, I thought Sloan was the more interesting, and I'm really excited to see, now that I know that she is going to be in the book Aftermath that's coming out soon. It just was really interesting to see how the people who are working for the Empire operate. When they see things going on that maybe aren't right, what do they do? When they're working around, what do they do? Whatever it goes forward. It was really interesting to see the day-to-day life of a Star Destroyer captain. We've seen that a bit in Tarkin as well, the book, but there's a lot of really interesting aspects of the Empire that are shown through Captain Sloan. Now, Count Vidian, he's kind of just your cliched villain. He's worked through his way up and now is one of the people who is in the Emperor's ear. And it was interesting to see how somebody who's a businessman, who has worked really hard, could become a powerful and evil individual. As a whole, I would recommend A New Dawn, especially if you're a fan of Rebels or the Kanan comics. It does extend the universe. It does allow you to see a little bit more to these characters. But if you're just looking for one novel or just going to read a couple, look at Lords of Sith or Tarkin or Dark Disciple before going to A New Dawn. It's good, but it's not anything that's going to be revolutionary. It's just a solid novel. So what do you think? Did you like A New Dawn? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, I'm Shawn Redman, aka the cheesily named Darth Shawn, and may the Force be with you. Always.